I'm here with Adam Leipzig. He's a producer, a former studio executive, an author, educator, and creative consultant. Adam has been producing for a number of years. He's been responsible for lots of hits. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, March of the Penguins when he was president of National Geographic Films, independent and studio pictures. Now he's had a career change, I would say, or the next stage in his career, where he's doing book writing, teaching. He's at UC Berkeley in the business school, teaching creative entrepreneurship, I guess you'd say, organizational management to executives and corporate leaders. He's a keynote speaker. He's just a Renaissance man. Adam Leipzig, welcome.
Thank you. I highly respect the Renaissance. I'm not sure if I earned that title, but thank you for flattering me, Hoyt.
So you have a couple of books that I know that you've been recently working on, as well as a mini-series that's coming out on HBO on Lewis and Clark later this year. So you've been a busy guy.
It's been a big year. It's been a great year. You know, last segment we talked about Inside Track for Independent Filmmakers,
yes.
Which is out now and which has really been embraced by the independent filmmaking community, that tells people how to get their movies made and how to get their movies seen, but it doesn't say how to make a movie. So this next book that we have coming out, of which I'm one of the co-authors, is called Filmmaking in Action, and we've designed it to become the primary textbook on filmmaking for colleges and universities in the United States and around the world, and I think will also be incredibly useful for emerging filmmakers at the beginning of their careers. It takes people all the way on the filmmaking process journey, from the beginning of, I have an idea, I want to make a movie, through directing, camera, lighting, sound, editing, marketing, distribution, to the point where the movie's on a screen, whether it's your cell phone screen or a big IMAX screen. Yeah,
so you've had an impact on the current generation of film producers and movies with the movies that you've made, and on the next generation, all the students and independent filmmakers, young independent filmmakers who are coming up.
Well, we hope so. That's our dream. You know, this has really been a legacy project for me and my collaborators. We've had the support of the Academy, the Directors Guild, the Writers Guild, the Editors Guild, the Visual Effects Society, the American Society of Cinematographers. Every major professional organization has offered their expertise, their experts, in some cases their archives, to us. I shot videos for every chapter in the book with fabulous people, some Academy Award winners, some at the beginnings of their careers, who do lighting, sound effects editing, camera, directing, producing, where they're looking right at the camera and talking to the reader or the student about what they do at the big Hollywood level and really pull back the curtain on how that works, but also breaking it down to the beginning filmmaker level, where you have one dime and two nickels to make your movie.
To rub together.
Exactly.
Well, it's with new digital technology, you really can make a movie for a couple of bucks. But there's so many components to it, and I know you had to pull all that together to write the book.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and what we really tried to do was we talk about the technology, but we don't get mired down in the geekiness of the technology. Technology constantly changes, and we all know if you're working with a piece of gear and you want to know how it works, you go to the owner's manual, or you go online to the PDF owner's manual on the manufacturer's website and figure that out. So that stuff is not in the book. What is in the book is how do you use it basically, and most importantly, how do you tell a story with it?
Yes, because it all boils down to storytelling.
Why is the camera there or there?
Exactly.
And if the camera moves, what does that say emotionally?
Yeah.
What are you trying to do with the audience? How are you trying to bring the audience into the picture, and how are you trying to bring the audience to feel
you know, it's interesting that you're writing this book in part for students, film students, because film schools are blossoming. There are a lot, and it's going to be great, I do believe, because even though you have a fairly narrow pipeline of studio movies, you've got with digital technology and the internet and all the new platforms for production and content, there are going to be terrific opportunities for independent filmmakers. They're just going to grow.
They're only growing, and you know, right now, and you have one chapter from this book right now, which is the first chapter we printed. The whole book comes out in July, and the world is really open to filmmakers. As you know, people make and distribute movies made on their iPhones.
Yes.
Everyone now in film school has grown up with a movie studio in their pocket.
Francis Ford Coppola, I think 10 years ago, was interviewed about this, and he was asked whether where he felt the competition was going to come from. Was it going to be overseas, or was it going to be from the independent, big gun independents or other studios? And he said, no, I'm actually worried about the young woman in Indiana with her mobile phone or digital camera who's going to make a brilliant masterpiece that's going to knock us all on our tushies. Right. And I think you're already seeing that happen. Yeah. Well, I'm also interested in your teaching, your consulting, and your speaking because you've broadened the audience outside of the entertainment industry. You now have things, folks that you talk to who aren't in the business, but you're taking the lessons and the experience that you have and the insights that you have from this fast-moving entertainment world into some other cultures and industries. Talk about that a little bit.
You know, movies capture our imagination in a special way. And if you think about a movie as a product, it makes an extraordinary value proposition. A movie's value proposition is so strong that if you give me 30 seconds of your time, that's the amount of time of a TV commercial, you give me 30 seconds of your time, later you will give me 2 hours of your time and $15 of your money.
Now how does that work? Explain that to me a little bit.
Because what we show you in those 30 seconds make you so hungry, make you crave it so much, you make this big commitment.
So you're talking about a movie trailer or a pitch or whatever.
I'm talking about the 30-second commercial you see on TV, which makes you decide you're going to go see that movie. It's a value proposition that's huge. And every business, whether they are a product business or a service business, everybody would love to be able to make a value proposition that strong to their audience or to their customers. So the question is, how do we do it?
Right, and because everybody's time is so valuable.
Exactly.
And there's so many options in the world.
That's right. And if you can't tell your customer what you're going to give for them in 30 seconds, you can't really tell them what you're going to give them.
I got you.
So what I do and what I'm asked to do often when I'm keynote speaking or consulting with companies is to answer the question, well, how do we get that for our company, for our teams?
So it's really about the story ultimately, isn't it?
It's about the story and about the values of that story. It's really about the experience. I think of it as the texture the audience is going to walk into that makes them feel great.
So I apply that to some other fields. How does that work when you're selling food services or you're selling airline tickets, or how does that segue into corporate work?
It works at every customer touch point. From the moment the customer puts their hand on the doorknob, whether it's a real one or a virtual one, or entering through a web portal or on the phone, through that first touch, that first entrance into that landscape, every single thing in that landscape, every single interaction has to be themed, has to be consistent, has to be outward facing and customer and audience oriented, all the way to the end. And then what happens is that at the end, the customer tells that story to their friends. And the customer tells that story in 30 seconds.
It's interesting because I'm smiling because I've always believed as a writer that storytelling is part of the human DNA. It's really organic. We actually tell a story, a narrative of ourselves, of how we live, and we focus on that narrative.
We do.
So it makes perfect sense. But I'm not sure that people in general understand this, and certainly not people in the business community, because that's not been their focus or their training. What's your response that you get?
Oh, actually, I get great response. People come to me because they know they need something, or they want to improve what they're doing already. And I think that the most forward-thinking business people completely already get this. Apple gets it. Southwest Airlines gets it. Right? Southwest Airlines has a great experience. I have no stock in this company. I'm not advertising them, but they have a great experience and they have a great story. And their story is, you can change your flight anytime with no extra fee, and you get 2 bags for free. And that's what everybody says about Southwest. So they've taken this whole customer experience into a narrative that I can tell you in 10 seconds, and that works.
And it's very similar to what we were talking about in the early segment with an independent filmmaker, of knowing your audience, knowing your product. What is it that who are you trying to attract to the theater to see the film?
Right. Because sometimes, if you think about a movie, and you think about that movie's one sheet, which is the poster. Movies at the end of the day get boiled down to one image, one title, and about 5 words. That's what sticks in the audience's mind. And every every company, every business, every service, every brand, every entrepreneur needs to find something that is as crisp and defined as that.
But it's complicated because you have to, because stories involve character, they involve a story structure, plot, tone, style, voice, everything.
Yes.
So it's something that takes a lot of hard work and takes a lot of expertise, I'm sure.
Right. It's made to look easy, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah, and also breaking through the white noise in an information overload is really tough.
Yeah.
What's the pushback you get? I'm curious from students or corporate types about this. Does it sound too arty for them? Because in a way, what you're doing is you're bringing art to business people and business to artists, in a sense, or creativity to business people. Is that right?
Yeah. You know, I got to tell you, Hoyt, I don't get pushback, except when I'm helping people learn how to present ideas well. Their biggest pushback is, but we need our PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I say, no, you really, really don't need your PowerPoint.
Oh,
you gotta let that ladder drop down and get to the next level.
Yeah.
Do it without the PowerPoint, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in addition to your consulting that you're doing, you also publish. You publish Cultural Weekly, which is online. It's cultural. What's your web address?
Culturalweekly.com.
.com. And this is a weekly publication online that covers arts, culture issues, primarily in Southern California, or is it national?
Well, it's national and international. In fact, the edition I'm putting to bed tonight, after we do this this conversation today, has stories from Istanbul, Turkey, and Australia.
Wow.
So it's grown to international now, although we are somewhat Southern California shifted, just because a lot of us are
We're the gateway, of course.
Yes, we are.
So who are your contributors? What are the topics that you show?
The contributors come from all over. Many come from our readership. Some I find and solicit. Some our writers go out and solicit. The topics are as wide-ranging as people can be passionate about. We have no party line. We do not assign stories. People come to us and say, I have to write about this. And I say, if you're articulate and you can write for us. It doesn't matter we have no governing aesthetic.
Yeah.
What we care is that you have an aesthetic and that you express it. And you know what the word aesthetic means. Which, yeah, I know you know.
Enlighten me, go ahead, please.
Aesthetic means that you have an opinion about what makes culture work, what makes creativity beautiful or not beautiful.
Yeah.
And Culture Weekly, it's really designed to be the antithesis of the thumbs up, thumbs down culture of talking about anything creative in our ecosystem. Everything that we do is creative. The way this glass is designed was a creative choice. It didn't we didn't just pick this up off the ground. Somebody designed this glass, someone designed this jacket, someone designed your glasses. They're all creative choices. We don't think that much about our creative choices, but they surround us completely, dramatically influence our lives. And yet when you talk to somebody about, like, what did you think about that song, or what did you think about that movie? We get two words: liked it, hated it, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I have the personal note here. My wife is a painter, and she teaches painting students, and they have that initial reaction: I like it, I don't. Well, her question is, let's dig down on that a little bit.
Right.
What is it do you like about it? Do you like the shape? Do you like the color? It's critical thinking, essentially.
Yes.
And people haven't really gotten to the stage where they understand that that's so much part of aesthetic appreciation. That's part of the fun.
Right. Yes, and in fact, it's not hard. You just have to do it. You don't need a PhD to do it. You don't need to go to school to do it. You just have to be open to your own perceptions, because it's not really interesting whether you like or hate something. What's interesting is, what do you find likable or hateful about it?
Right.
And why.
Right.
We don't even have to agree about it. It's just really interesting. It's about discerning those things. You know, I was in Whole Foods a while ago, and Whole Foods, they have an end cap display, which is the end of the aisle, big display, and there are 40 different kinds of salt.
Yeah.
Which is, God bless the salt people that they have been able to market 40 different kinds of salt.
Right.
But if you walked up to someone on the street and said, how many kinds of painting are there? They would look at you like you were asking them a crazy question. They would say, well, there's a paint and a brush and a wall.
This is why arts education, creativity, and practicing an art is so important to intellectual development. There was a study recently of Nobel-winning scientists, and they said, they found in the study that if you either painted or played the violin or wrote essays, that you were 10 times more likely as a scientist
Right.
to win the Nobel Prize.
Right.
And it just says that it develops a part of your brain.
Yes.
Hopefully we've come to that. We're coming to that.
I hope so.
I would think that part of the work that you're doing in the corporate world encourages that. That it's not just doctor, lawyer, accountant, but creative person, and that encompasses all of us and
Yeah,
all the
it
work
does,
we
very
do.
much so.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm as somebody who's involved in politics. I'd love to see that some of that narrative and initiative get into the political arena too, particularly on the citizen side, critical thinking. So, have you worked with political people at all? You have an interest in that?
I haven't had that chance yet. That would be a great challenge.
Well, we'll work on that.
We have got an election cycle coming up here, Hoyt.
That's right.
We have to do something about that.
That's right. So, so you're traveling a lot with your business. I know that this was a transition for you from being employed as the president of a film company. What are some of your reflections on this change, broadening out your work? What are some of the satisfactions of it? Because I know you're a creative person. And
Yeah. I'm having the best time of my life. Because if you look at, or if one looks at everything I do, and I look at everything I do, and I try to think about what is the common thread, including the movies or media that I'm still producing, it's about empowering creative people. A producer empowers creative people. Cultural Weekly empowers creative people. These books about filmmaking empower creative people to express themselves better. When I'm working at UC Berkeley with the MBA program or with executives, it's about empowering their creativity and giving them some of the tools they need to express their passions crisply. So I think now really what I do is I share information and empower people to do the same. It's really fun.
You're a bit of a mentor, or something of a guru, I guess you can call yourself.
Guru is a scary word. I don't know about that, but you know, I've benefited from having strong mentors in my life. So that is a great. If I could be a mentor, it would be an honor to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what we have to do.
Well, let's talk about the future a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's go back onto the film business, television and entertainment. What do you see? Let's do some blue sky thinking here. I know that there's a lot of pessimism about feature films. There's pessimism about broadcast television. There's the challenges of independent filmmaking. There's the confluence of the Yahoos and Googles and Microsofts of the world with the entertainment business. What's the landscape going to look like? I'm fascinated to hear what you think.
Well, first thing is, it's not going away. Right? People have said literature was dying and theater was dying for millennia, and they haven't gone away either.
Right.
Filmmaking is a very young art. If you compare it to theater or literature, which are thousands of years old, movie making is 110 years old or so. So it's a very young art in the great panoply of human creative expression. But it's not going to go away at all. It's going to continue to broaden. It will continue to go through its cycles, and I do think that the movie business goes through a kind of 10-year cycle with interesting regularity, if you're a kind of a predictive wonk, as I am from time to time, and we are still in the upturn area of that cycle. We'll be turning up for the next few years, and it's going to come down again around 2018, 19, 20, and then rise up again for another cycle. The studios are going to continue to exist. You know, the same studios that are in existence now existed 50, 70 years ago. That is a strong business. That's not going to go away. Independent filmmakers are not going to go away. What has changed is that audiences do not have short attention spans. That is why we binge watch 13 hours of House of Cards.
We do not have short attention
We do
spans.
not have, we are not in the 30-second and the butterfly's gone generation.
Yeah.
We're willing to watch 13 hours of House of Cards or Daredevil or whatever happens. So I think that's a magnificent shift. And for storytellers and artists, the ability to tell a story over a dozen hours, that's a great thing. If Shakespeare were writing, that's what he would be doing right now.
Well, let's parse it a little bit. So do you think the studios are going to be exclusively kind of in the business of the global big tentpole movies? Is that where they're headed? That's going to be their business?
It's where they are. They'll probably recover, and my guess is that in the next few years, the big tentpole movie thing will have run its course a bit, and then studios will reestablish specialty divisions like they had a decade ago before they closed Warner Independent and Paramount Classics. I think that those studios will, and Disney got rid of Miramax, I think those studios will find specialty movies again and re-embrace them at some point.
What about the American hegemony, I'd say, of the film business that's been historically true?
Right.
It seems to me that if I look at the Oscars these days, or if I look at some of the big films, they seem to be more international. There seems to be more globalization of movie making.
Yes.
You're getting markets in Asia, for example, that are looking for homegrown films. Same thing in Latin America, Turkey, and the Middle East. How does the American film industry address those challenges?
Well, what still does have hegemony are these big studio movies.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look at any given week, the #1 movie in just about every country in the world is an American studio film. At the same time, American independent movies do not travel much overseas. They have been replaced in overseas cinemas with the locally grown, locally produced product. There's also a big shift in that China in the next 5 years will become the biggest movie market in the world.
Right.
In terms of just gross dollars, size of audience. It's an audience which, for whom movies are still super exciting. And they pay high ticket prices to go to movies in China. They don't have much of a barrier to entry. They don't have a cost barrier. They don't mind paying a lot to go see movies. So China will continue to grow and will exercise more and more influence on the big global movies.
Do you think that the movie content and creatively will change to some degree? Because I think it always has been and this is part of the criticism America gets, is that we've Americanized global entertainment. But it does seem at the same time that there are also lots of indigenous, for want of a better word, film cultures that are developing, and that you're beginning to see, even in American movies, a globalization of influence, cultural influence. Is that something that's going to happen?
I think very true. I think you're accurate. I think we're seeing it already.
And the financing is a different issue. I know one of the bugs I've always had was that America, unlike all these other countries, doesn't have a National Film Commission.
Yes.
We have the MPAA, which is really a lobbying organization of a couple of studios.
Sure.
But we don't have any way for filmmakers from the United States to communicate on a national level through a national commission with other filmmakers, exchange ideas, creativity, co-produce projects. It's very, very difficult to do that. I don't know what the reasons why we've never had that. I guess we never needed to. But do you see that more of internationalization for American filmmakers?
I sit on the International Committee of the Producers Guild.
Okay.
So that's an area of massive interest in the PGA. We all make a lot of our movies overseas. We're often involving international artists making our movies in front of and behind the camera. Obviously, international money supports just about every major movie that gets made in many of the big independents. At the same time, I wish there could be a National Film Commission. I wish there could be national sponsorship and subsidies of our film and other creative industries.
Right, plus an NFL team in LA.
I'd like that too, right, yes. And the Easter Bunny. All of these things are part of my wish list, but I don't think we're going to get
We put them in the same category?
Yeah.
Hopefully the NFL team will be in our future.
Yeah, I think that could happen.
Well, I think one of the interesting things back on your consulting is a changing world of business, corporate culture, where creativity becomes much more important. I know that for the American economy, we realize that creativity is one of our great gifts in the United States because of the freedom that we have and the nature of our culture and educational system.
Right.
So and that success in the globalized world really is going to depend on creativity and creative entrepreneurship, not just from the so-called creative community, but from the entire community. What are some of the challenges of engendering creativity in these?
Yeah, and we're still, I still think that America is the country where it is most easy to become a creative entrepreneur, where you have the most pathways open to you, that people still come here to do that. And the barrier, what are the challenges? I think the challenges are the same as what we talked about movies. Knowing your audience, or your customers, knowing they're really there, not just because you want them to be there, but because
Yeah.
you know they're going to be there, that you can prove that they're going to be there.
Which is something that's a bit of a hallmark of American culture.
Yeah.
That we're pretty bottom line about
Yeah.
that. If you go to Europe and you go to Asian countries, they have a hierarchy. The Japanese industrial system, for
Exactly.
example, where they have a hierarchy of what you can and can't do,
Right.
what you can and can't say to, and I think that in American companies, the way that they thrive is through questioning,
Right.
through
We just do it.
communication, and we just try to do it.
Yeah.
That was one of the great things I discovered when I came out from New York, because New York tends to be a pretty stratified theater scene. And you come to LA, people, and you have meetings for TV or film, and people are excited and they say, well, how can we make money together? That seems to be it's not so much where did you go to school and
Right.
how long have you been working at the Public Theater, but,
Yes.
but really an open and creative environment.
Right.
And that hasn't changed, has it, in the time that you've been
not at
been
all.
here?
And that's the beauty of Los Angeles. It's a city where you can come with, you really still can come with very little and turn it into a lot. And there are not those social barriers, a sort of cultural aristocracy,
Right.
which keeps people down, as exist in many other cities.
Yeah, and not to get into cultural chauvinism or anti-New York or Chicago, but this is what I found is true in California in general, and
Right.
why we've developed this creative culture. And the fact that it's spreading out from technology and entertainment into the other areas that are so important.
Right.
Everything from oil services to environmental
Right.
stuff, this is all important. I mean, look at the drought that we have now. I mean, you need creative solutions for that.
Yeah.
And you need messaging, you need communication, you
Yeah.
need storytelling.
Yeah,
So,
and creative entrepreneurship,
yeah.
that cannot be outsourced. You can outsource the manufacturing, you can outsource the call centers, a lot of that tech service stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the spirit of creative entrepreneurship that actually cannot go overseas.
And a big part of it is failure. I think
Yeah.
failure is so key.
Exactly.
We have so much more to talk about, and unfortunately our time is running out.
I'll come back.
But please do come back. Best of luck with your books. Tell them, also you have a website, I believe, adamleipzig.com.
You can find me at adamleipzig.com.
to get more information about your work and what you're doing.
culturalweekly.com. Come and join us.
Culturalweekly.com. And I think Cultural Weekly, from what I understand, has a real community now
Yeah,
that's
big community.
building around it. So if you want to join that community and participate in the new creativity, that's a great place to look. Adam, thank you so much for joining
you,
us.
Hoyt.
It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure is mine.